So, Anne-Marie, there's really two issues here. One, the indication that the decision would be that Roe v. Wade would be overturned. The other is the fact that this draft was leaked in the first place. We're hearing from Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell right now, who said justices must be able to deliberate with privacy, that the court leak was intended to sway an outcome. What is the feeling in Washington right now?
Yeah, really two big shocks there. One on the fact that you have this draft, which seems unprecedented from the Supreme Court. I mean, this is very much an institution in the United States that vies on that secrecy and making sure they can do their work before a decision is unveiled. So that's one part of it. The second is, of course, the fact that this has just galvanized many in the Democratic Party and on the left. There are protesters behind me outside the Supreme Court. They were there from 9 a.m. this morning. They were there last night when this story leaked from Politico. And then this morning we did hear from the President of the United States. And the other big issue, Kaylee and guys, of course, what does this mean for November and the midterm elections? The president is talking about the fact that this is a basic fundamental right. It's been the law of the land since 1973. And he says if it is overturned, then it's up to elected officials and individuals in America, voters, to go out and vote for those elected officials in November. Now, we've seen this be such a big issue, both on the right and left, and likely this is going to drive a lot of those political campaign dollars for the Democratic Party. When you thought inflation was going to be the biggest issue this November, abortion potentially can eclipse that.
Anne-Marie, do we know who leaked it and why they leaked it?
We don't know. We don't know who leaked it. I did see an interview this morning with a reporter from Politico talking about the fact that he does believe that this is authentic. He did make the point that it is a fluid document. This is from February, and obviously this was circulating among the justices, and they were all adding in opinions. So we don't know if also the document has changed since February. We are now in May. We don't know who the leaker is, but again, definitely that part of the story as well is incredibly unprecedented.
Bloomberg's Anne-Marie Hordern outside the Supreme Court. Thank you very much indeed. Let's, as Anne-Marie says, explore how this debate could reshape the US midterm elections coming towards the end of this year. We're joined now by Terry Haynes, Pangea Policy Founder. Terry, your first thoughts when you saw this story, what impact could it have?
Well, my first thought is it was appalling, and it is appalling. It's an attack on the Supreme Court itself as an institution. Anne-Marie did a fine job of covering the rest of it, so I won't belabor that. But you know, any person interested in making sure that the institutions in this country are as strong as possible should be appalled by this. It is unprecedented, and it's wrong, and it ought to be, and I hope it'll be prosecuted, frankly. Beyond that, you have a situation, and Anne-Marie mentioned this also, where it's a 3-month-old draft opinion. It strikes me as a very purist sort of opinion. You don't know anything about the Supreme Court's deliberations. You don't know any more about them now than you did before. Mm-hmm. Did Alito do this himself? Did the Chief Justice ask him to put up a kind of a purist position of getting rid of Roe? If so, did he ask other justices to do the same on their views? Trying to figure out how to knit the court together somehow on a view. Yeah. We don't know any of that, and we won't know it. Finally, I think the political impact is very simply this: there are lots of folks who are dedicated to trying to make the most political impact out of this as possible, both on the right and the left. But I would caution that you have two things going on. One of which is that if you feel really, really strongly about this issue, if it's one of your top issues, you'd likely have picked a team already. You're either team red or team blue already. Okay. That said, there's 1 out of 6 undecideds according to most polls, and you're likely to see, that maybe sway people a little bit. But will this remake the midterms? I doubt that very much right now.
Okay, but Terry, what you're describing is an America in which there are two teams. There's one on the left and one on the right, and pretty polarized in either direction. Is this midterm election and the presidential election for 2024, for that matter, going to be much more about culture wars than policy? Is that the indication here?
I think it's, to some extent, it's always about culture wars. Those are important things. They affect how people think about what goes on in Washington and who they elect. At the same time, what we've seen over the past many months now, not just over the past month or so, is a world in which the vast majority of voters, however they describe themselves, right, left, centrist, independents, whatever, very focused on economic issues of all kinds, very focused on inflation, very focused on gas prices, very focused on frustration that Washington is not doing enough about any of those things. And, I don't think that changes, frankly. And, whatever happens with the Roe decision in probably one of the last decisions in late June, I don't think that completely remakes the midterms. Does that incent people on both sides to possibly come out more than they would have otherwise? Yeah, I think it probably does. But I would be very, very careful about deciding that it's going to have an impact one way or the other, not least because, Democrats who, Team Blue is strongest on the coast, and they're the vast majority of voters, frankly, already have public officials that believe as they do on maintaining Roe and maintaining the right conferred there. But it plays very differently in the heartland.